In this video, I'm going to show you 3 more basic jazz chords, but this time where the root is on the A string. Root on A string. A string is this one right here. Now, as soon as we move the root to the A string rather than the E string, like the last video, the patterns will change. The patterns will change. So once you got the E string, you're going to want to move to the A string root. And after, I'll show you something really cool that you can do in the next video. So here we go. Go back to my red. So let's pick everything on C. The root will always be a C chord. And I had written this down before. I'll write it again. You remember there's 3 types or families of chords. And this is for just all of music theory. Every chord functions as either major, minor, or dominant. So let me go and show you each of these. This is a major pattern. So for a major chord pattern, you are going to play this pattern. Now, I'm not going to go into telling you what finger to use. You can kind of figure this out. And also, people play with different fingers, and you know, it's great. So you figure out what works comfortably for you, but this is your major pattern. Okay. Now next, let's move to the minor. So minor pattern looks like this. So once again, these 2 notes, the root didn't change, but these 2 notes just shifted down 1 fret. You remember this one used to be here for the major, and this was here for the major. They both shifted down 1 fret. On the E string as well, but this is on the A string, and this is what a minor looks like. Once again, you don't play this string or this string. Now it's important, by the way, I should say, as soon as you move to the root on A string, you don't want to play the E string. So now you have to mute this string. It's the minor pattern. And then the third and the last is the dominant. Dominant. So for the dominant, just like in the last video, you're going to kind of use 1 from the major, 1 from the minor. So this kind of combines and forms this nice little pattern for all dominant chords on the A string. Okay, so I want to go and show you once again, just like I did last time. Let's put this into context now and put it in the key of C, because C is right here. And so I'm going to go and form my major scale so that I have a grid to follow. So if we are in the key of C. Key of C. I go find where a C is on the A string, and I begin to number my scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You remember it's up here, but also 7 is down here. Just to let you know as well, 6 here is also down here open. I don't want to play it there because some of the chords won't allow, you won't be able to play it down there because it's below this nut. So we'll keep the 6 here, but there is my numbered system. All right, so going back to that one example that I gave, which was 2, 5, 1. Remember, 2s are minors, 5s are dominant, and 1 is major. This is what it would look like. It's just this simple. This 2 is a minor, so I would play the minor pattern like that. 5 here is a dominant, so I would play the dominant pattern, which looks like this. And 1 is a major, which this is going to kind of overlap and look a little messy. I'm going to get rid of part of that. But 1 is a major chord. Remember, major chords look like that. Okay, one other thing I want to tell you now that you've kind of learned how to do this is when you take the full chord progression theory using the number system, it basically lays out like this. I'm going to write down here. Let me use a different color. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, when you look at chord progression theory using 4 notes each, this is what you get by default. And number 1 is a major. They're major chords, all 1s. 2s are minor chords. 3s are minor. 4, this is all by default, by the way, is major. 5, I'm going to put this here, dominant. Only 5s are dominant. Within all 7 of these chords, there's only one place where the dominant chords appear by default. 6s are minor. 7 is by default what we call diminished. Diminished. Let me write this. Diminished. D-I-M. But when you're looking at how we are applying these 3 note chords in jazz, this diminished will function as a minor chord. Definitely more minor chord than major or dominant. So, using the forms that I showed you in the last 2 videos, you can just play 7 as a minor pattern. Now let me go and show you one more time. If we were to number this off, let's change keys now. Let's go to the key of D. So I go and find D on my A string, make that number 1. 1 is always the starting point where the key is. 2 is here. 3, 4. This becomes 5. I don't have room for 6, but if 5 is an octave lower down here, then 6 is a whole step up from that. So 6, 7, 1. So let me show you real quickly now. If I were to turn all these single notes of the major scale into these jazz chords, it would look like this. 1 is a major. I would play this major pattern like that. 2 is a minor right there. So I would play the minor pattern. 3 by default is minor. So I'd play the minor pattern. 4 is what? Major default. So I would play major. 5 is this dominant, you remember. And in jazz, the dominant chord is like all over the place. And in modern worship, we don't really encounter dominant sounding, dominant 7th type of chords. But once you get into jazz, that's the sound. So it's very unique. But you remember there's a pattern that's dominant, and that is this. Let's go down to 6. 6 is a minor. So I would go play my minor pattern over this 6th position. And you remember this one goes down 2 frets, which would make this open D. And 7, remember, even though the chord theory says it's diminished, using these these chord shapes that I'm showing you, none of the 3 function as a diminished chord, but you would use the minor pattern because the 3 notes that you're using out of the 4 actually doesn't include what makes the chord diminished. So on 7, you would just play minor and it would work. Okay, so I just went and showed you all you would need to know to play in the scale, in the key of D, using these forms. A little bit of theory, the patterns, the chord shapes, everything.